Alrighty, so first of all, I do apologize if this review is relatively late because last night, when I finished my shift, which was around 10 p.m., I also just realized that I had to do an early shift the very next morning, and I was also still watching not just the highlights of this Hell is Real Derby, but I decided to watch the full match replay of this game. And by the time I finished, it was right about 11:30, and it was just way too late for me to basically do a review, and then of course have to wake up in the morning to get ready for my morning shift. And that's why we're right now here in Saturday evening, where it was a couple of hours after my shift is over, but then I of course have to do a sports hop series right after my Saturday shift, and that's where we are right now, where it's about 12 hours since, or not even 12 hours, but it's been 24 hours since the last game of the Thursday and Friday action is over. But that being said, in terms of these free games, well, if you like draws, these free games definitely was a treat for you, because all three of these games does end in a draw. And also, if you like red cards, which actually I should phrase it differently because nobody likes red card, but if you want to see a red card in some of these games, well, yeah, you definitely got the treat too, because all three of these games does have a red card. And you can also maybe say that all three of these games are games where the home teams will definitely be kicking themselves that they weren't able to get the victory, because all three of these home team had a man up at some point during these games, and they weren't able to get all 3 points despite being up a man in these ones. So we start off with the Red Bulls versus the Union, and technically I was going to start Nashville versus Atlanta first, because this game, like the Houston game back on Wednesday, was delayed about half an hour. Or actually, not the Houston game. The New England game was delayed half an hour. And if I would have watched these two games, it would have really messed me up with the way that, I have to watch both of them pretty much at the same time. I mean, I was going to eventually watch both of them at the same time if I was going to keep an eye on it and I didn't have to work on Thursday, but it's kind of a pain, the fact that I have to watch both of them at the same time and they start at the same time. But this game, of course, it didn't start until 8:32, as I mentioned. It was delayed because of lightning. By the time it did started, it was the Union with the first big opportunity in the 7th minute, as Cornell was able to deny Gaztec in the near post. Then 8 minutes later, Matt Freese absolutely robbed Fabio, who was through on goal. Matt Freese, of course, getting his first start in this game. And yeah, let's just say that his performance was definitely up and down, and there was definitely one boneheaded play that we're going to talk about a little bit later. That was probably one of the most boneheaded play I've seen in an MLS game. But after both teams had one good chance in this game, there wasn't really any real chance for both teams until the 33rd minute, when Fabio did hit it wide from close range before he tried another effort just 7 minutes later, trying a 17-yard shot, but he completely got that one all wrong and actually goes way wide there. But then in the 5th minute of stoppage time, it looked like the Union was going to get the opening goal, as Montero just puts an absolute rocket that somehow, in some way, Sean Davis was able to clear that one off the line, like with just so much pace to that ball. I know sometimes when you're a defender, you always want to be at the right place, the right time to clear the ball away, but sometimes when that ball is hit so hard, it makes it even hard to try to clear that one off the line. So the fact that Davis was able to stood tall and clear that one off the line, despite the fact that that ball was literally coming right toward him with a lot of pace, that was very impressive to see how he was able to clear that one off the line and keep this game 0-0 heading into the second half. So we go to the second half, and 5 minutes in, Cornell was able to deny Montero with a full stretch save. And I thought Philly definitely pushed early to try to get the lead, but then this is when I talk about the boneheaded play that Matt Freese basically made. And you know how in the NBA, when you see like boneheaded play, they always end up on the show called Shaq and the Fool. And if you also see in the NFL, there's some boneheaded play, it always end up on the show called Come On Man. Well, if that MLS does kind of have those kind of show, this one would have been on it, because I don't know if Matt Freese forgot that he's a goalkeeper and he's not an attacker, because he literally decided, well, first of all, the back pass on him wasn't actually that good, but at the same time, all he had to do was just kind of clear that one away, but instead he kind of took an extra touch, almost like an attacker, and he basically hold back one of the Union attacker, who I think it was Santos that was the player, but he literally hold him back, like almost like he's an attacker and he wants to win the ball first. And when you do that, yeah, when you're an attacker, that obviously it is a foul. But when you're the goalkeeper and you're doing that in your own box, yeah, it's no surprise that is a penalty, and no surprise that it's a straight red for denial of goal score opportunity. Again, that's something that I don't think I've ever seen before, and in some way, when I saw that, I was kind of just almost laughing, and it's like, what in the world is he doing? Like, do you know you're a goalkeeper and not an attacker? Because what you did is literally what every attacker does when they trying to chase down those 50-50 ball. But nevertheless, Kamala was able to put away the penalty to give the Red Bulls a 1-0 lead. Unsurprisingly, after that penalty was taken in, the Red Bulls up 1-0. The Red Bulls pretty much controlled this game and looked to put this game away. Fernandez did have a chance in the 81st minute, but he missed from a point blank range. But then the Union was able to get the equalizer and really score against the run of plays, as Sergio Santos, who just came into this game, and actually remember how I said it was Matt Freese that basically fouled Santos. Actually, I think that might have been Montero, but because Santos came in a little bit later into this game, and he definitely made an instant impact, because he would score from Bizo to tie the game up at 1 apiece for the Union. And then in the second minute of stoppage time, it looked like Santos was going to steal all 3 points for the Union, as he went through on goal, but only puts a weak shot to Cornell. But nevertheless, it ends in a 1-1 draw between both of these teams, and the shots in this one, 14 shots compared to the 11 that the Union has, 7 shots on goal compared to the 3 that the Red Bulls had, 7 shots off target compared to the 3 that the Union has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to the 1 that the Union has, and possession-wise, 53% possession compared to the 47% possession that the Red Bulls had. And despite the fact that the Union did have more of the opportunity and had more on the shot on goal, I think they'll be happy. The fact that, when you're down to 10 men and you also gave up that penalty to go down 1-0. Not many teams are able to recover, to have the resilience to find an equalizer, especially on the road. But if you're the Red Bulls, this is a huge missed opportunity for another win, because I thought when they went up 1-0, I thought, yeah, this is going to be like a typical Red Bulls game, where eventually they're going to find that second goal and they're going to win again at home, because this season they have had a very good record at Red Bull Arena and have pretty much won every single game except for the opening home game against SKC so far at home this year. But now moving on in terms of the next match, and speaking of team that should have won their home game, is Nashville SC. And this is becoming a theme for Nashville SC, where there's times where they have a bunch of chances late to maybe get that third goal, and they aren't able to do so at home. And this one, unlike the other one where they went down 2-0 and they came back and then had a bunch of opportunity to really complete the turnaround and win the game 3-2. This one, they had the lead late in this, or they had the lead and then they of course gave up the lead late, but then they also had a man up and had multiple chances to win the game late on, but they just weren't able to get that crucial third goal and have to settle for another draw in this game against Atlanta United. Now, in the first half, just 5 minutes in, so you know how Nashville, one of the other issue that they've been having this season, which this actually was a problem they had early this season, but they're starting to fix it, is giving up early goals. They had a lot of issue with that, especially in the first 2 games, where they tend to give up early goals and find themselves digging a hole before we even get into the halftime whistle of this game. Well, they did it again in this one. Quickly find themselves down 1-0 after Anton Walks was able to score from Rainey to give Atlanta United a 1-0 lead. But you knew that Nashville was probably going to respond, and they actually waste no time to respond to going down 1-0. Before they did, Khan was able to deny Mukhtar, but then on the following play on the corner, it was Joel Anababa able to score from Mukhtar, and I believe that's Anababa's first goal for Nashville SC this season, or ever since he's joined the team. and that ties the game up at 1 apiece. And also after a fast start to this game, chances started to kind of become premium, and that this game kind of was similar to this one, where it was a relatively fast start in the first 15 minutes, and then things kind of calmed down for the next 20 minutes. The next chance came in the 36th minute when Sapon went through on goal but missed wide before Mukhtar actually go through on goal, but unfortunately he only finds the side netting as we head to halftime with both teams tied at 1 apiece. Now heading into the second half, we saw another boneheaded play that happened. I mean, we saw a couple of boneheaded play and some just kind of WTF moment that we saw that you probably don't see that happen a lot in MLS, and in some way that these kind of moments does make a case where, if you actually show it to a Euro snub, this will be a good example of why MLS is probably a farmers league. But here, right as we head into the second half, and only 1 minute in, a penalty was given to Nashville SC after Cubo Torres just inexplicably handballed this one in the box. Like, this was literally a weak header coming in, and even though it was on target, there's no doubt that Willis, of course, or not Willis, but Khan was able to get to that. But Cubo Torres just inexplicably decided to just kind of handball. It almost felt like it looks like maybe he was thinking that ball was going to go in, and his goalkeeper had no chance to save it, and just kind of punched out that one out. And that obviously was a big no-no. And I think he's very fortunate that he only got a yellow card out of that, because I think the reason why he only got a yellow card was about that foul is because that one wasn't actually hit very hard, and it wasn't actually in a situation where if it really was heading toward the back of the net and you basically handballed it, then yeah, that of course is going to be a red card. But nevertheless, that was definitely a very boneheaded play, because there's no doubt that Khan, the Atlanta goalkeeper, was going to save that one, which gave Nashville the penalty. And I forgot to put who of course score the penalty, but I believe it's Mukhtar, the one that was able to put away the penalty, and Nashville was up 2-1 up until that point. Now they could have made it 3-1 just a couple of minutes later when Sapon actually scored, and it actually looked like it was 3-1 because they celebrated, and the lights of course kind of was flashing after a goal was scored, but unfortunately the goal was chopped off because there was an offside, and I think it was Sapon, the one that was in an offside position. It was relatively close, but I think it was close enough where there is definitive evidence that of course was offside, and therefore the goal of course was chopped off, and the game remains at 2-1. And that goal that was chopped off turns out to be huge, because just a couple of minutes later Atlanta were able to get the equalizer. And also, no, that's not a foreshadow of the fact that I'm making a noise because Nashville just choked. I actually did kind of had to cough a little bit there, but yeah, Atlanta gets the equalizer, and it's Jackson Conway who scored his first career MLS goal for Moreno to tie the game up at 2 apiece. And just like how Santos of course came off the bench and quickly got the equalizer for the Union, it's the same thing for Jackson Conway. He only came on just 4 minutes in, and he got himself his first career MLS goal off the bench to tie the game up at 2 apiece. But Nashville immediately looked to try to get the lead back, and in fact they thought they got the lead back just 5 minutes later when Mukhtar of course was able to put the ball into the back of the net. But once again, the goal was to sell out for offside, and this time there was no celebration. The linesman actually raised his flag as soon as that ball went into the back of the net. Then 7 minutes later, Khan was able to deny Mukhtar from short range before Nashville was pushing for a winner, and their chances of potentially getting a winner increased, because in the 74th minute, Moreno would get a straight red after a denial of goal score opportunity. Then 2 minutes later, Khan would actually deny Mukhtar on the free kick. I mean, Mukhtar had tons of chances to score more than the one goal that he has so far in this game, and that was from the spot. But late in the game, Brooks Landon actually tried to do what Santos also did that the Union did to the Red Bulls, where they try to steal all 3 points on the road, despite the fact that they're down a man, but Willis was able to deny him on the near post there. And yeah, that was the final action of this game as it ends in a 2-2 draw. And the shots in this game, 17 shots compared to the 6 that Atlanta has, 8 shots on goal compared to 2 that Atlanta has, 5 shots off target compared to 3 that Atlanta has, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 1 that Atlanta has, and both teams had 50% possession in this game. And again, Atlanta, they're definitely going to be the more happier side coming out of this game, able to get a draw despite the fact that they were down to 10 men, and they were definitely under siege after they got the equalizer. But for Nashville, it's happened again where they had opportunity to get that crucial third goal and to get all 3 points. And this is now, I think, 7 draw for both of these teams. And I know sometimes when you look at draws, sometimes it could be a good thing because, you could be on the road and you might be down on the road and able to rescue yourself a point, and a draw might feel like a win. But there could also be a case where a draw could feel like a defeat because you give up a late goal, or most importantly, you drop points at home. And this is starting to feel like that's the case for Nashville right now, where they have just dropped too many points at home so far for this season. And have drawn so many times this season where, since they have a very heavy loaded home schedule to begin the season, I wonder, is that going to come back to haunt them heading into the second half of the season? I mean, right now, when you look at the standing, they're sitting pretty good in the East, but you got to remember in the second half of the season when they have a heavy road stretch, and, unless if Nashville can be that good road team and able to pull off a couple of draws out of that, yeah, there could be some concern if you're a Nashville SC fan, the fact that you are drawing way too many games at home and dropping way too many points at Nissan Stadium. And we talked about before where if you want to make the playoffs, you got to make sure you always get all 3 points at home because, if you're not going to be a good road team, which for Nashville it's still to be determined because this season at least there's been a couple of times where they've been able to get a draw on the road, but, they play so few road games and play some of the fewest road games out of any team in the league. It is still a big to be determined the fact that whether or not if they can recover these lost points that they had at home and still make the playoffs. But if they don't, these are going to be the resort that they're going to look back, and the fact that if they would have got all 3 points in terms of these resort and not drop points at home, they would have easily made it to the playoffs. But now moving on, in terms to the last match of match week number 11 in terms of the midweek action, in the last match before we don't have an MLS game until next week, because today I kind of feel weird the fact that there was no MLS game. I mean, we are now in the mix of a Gold Cup break, and the Gold Cup actually kicked off tonight in Dallas when Mexico is taking on Trinidad and Tobago. I actually haven't checked the score of that game or even watched that game yet, but yeah, we don't have an MLS action until next week, and as I mentioned, this is the last game of that and there's a reason why this is called the Hell is Real Derby, because this was definitely hell for both of these teams, and especially if you're a player of both of these teams playing in this game. And that that first half, wow, it was like a war zone between both of these teams where the challenge was just flying in everywhere, and there was so many yellow cards that was handed out that you realized that eventually there was going to be a red card, and unsurprisingly, there was at the end of the first half. But first of all, in the first half, it was actually a dream start for Cincinnati in the Hell is Real Derby, as Edgar Castillo, yes, that Edgar Castillo, who's been in the league forever, and he's been kind of a journeyman throughout these last couple of years, but he would score for the first time in 3 years from Acosta to make it 1-0 in favor of FC Cincinnati. And that also is the fastest goal this season fastest goal this season in MLS, and the fastest goal ever scored at TQL Stadium, because that only took 24 seconds for that one to happen. And like I said, Cincinnati off to a dream start. Certainly the 26,000 fans at TQL Stadium was rocking when that goal, of course, went in. But then after that, that's when things got really scrappy, and things where it started to kind of turn into a war zone where there was so many rough physical challenge that was made in the first 20 minutes. And I know the referee was trying to let go of a lot of things in the first 20 minutes with all these physical challenge, which I don't think that actually helped the fact that he can kind of control this game. And I thought there were times where he kind of lost control of this game, and then he kind of tried to take control back by showing a bunch of yellow cards and kind of stop being lenient in terms of some of the fouls. And we'll also talk about later how that really kind of affect in terms of this game, and really kind of the reason why that second red or that second yellow card came right before halftime. But like I said, it was a lot of physical challenge in the first 20 minutes, and also kind of very stop and go kind of a game where there's just no rhythm to the game because there was just so many fouls that was committed. But in the 23rd minute, Atunga did miss wide from close range before a couple of plays later, Acosta would score from Atunga to make it 2-0 in favor of FC Cincinnati. And if Cincinnati wasn't in dreamland before, they definitely was. I mean, they were up 2-0 at that point. And at that point, I was really hoping that is this maybe just a time where Cincinnati might get one of their biggest win in franchise history, and no doubt their biggest win at TKO Stadium, because they're up 2-0 in this game, and I was hoping hopefully they don't do the same thing that they did against Nashville SC earlier this season, which is went up 2-0 in a game and ends up drawing 2-2. Now, after that goal was scored, and a couple of minutes later, this is when things really got heated between both teams, when Mensah absolutely took out Acosta with a rough challenge. And by the way, Jonathan Mensah, he did not get a yellow card out of this situation. And, obviously the announcer from the Cincinnati feed was baffled. And I'm pretty sure all the Cincinnati players in the 25,000 in there was baffled that there was no card that was shown. And even I was baffled by that. Like, how in the world, that with that rough of a challenge that Mensah committed. And it wasn't the first one that he committed. He committed a rough challenge just early in the game, and he committed another one here, and he got away with it. And also, this is where I really start to think the referee realized that he was losing control of this game, and he was just letting way too many things go. And this is where he started to not show any more leniency, and that if there is a foul that happened, even if it's a minimal foul, there's going to be a yellow card that is shown. And this is also where the yellow card really started to fly out of the ref pocket. And to kind of quote that Oprah meme, it was like, you get a yellow card. You get a yellow card. Everybody gets a yellow card. And when that happens, you also know that eventually there's going to be a red card that is going to come around the corner. Because in the 30th minute, actually before that, Zarian did try to hit a 30-yard free kick on target, but unfortunately he missed wide. But you knew with so many yellow card that was handed out, a red card was gonna come, and it came in the 41st minute for Columbus as Harrison Affo gets his second yellow card. And again, that foul that he commit, it wasn't that malicious. Where in other games, I think clearly that wouldn't be a second yellow card. I think that would have been just kind of like a last warning to Harrison Affo that, yeah, you can't commit that foul again, or else I will give you a second yellow card. But because of the fact that the referee have already feel like, yeah, I need to really control this game by showing a yellow card, and I give no warning whatsoever to any players if they make another tough challenge, or even a challenge that isn't malicious. And this is kind of an example of it. So, yeah, Affo obviously, he didn't complain that he got a second yellow card out of that. And I think maybe that's just an example of how a lot of these players understand that they better behave themselves and not make some really silly challenge. Because if they made a silly challenge, for sure you're going to end up in the book, because the referee, again, was showing no leniency up to that point in terms of foul committed on the pitch. Now, right before the stroke of halftime, Columbus would equalize. And it's Zarian. Zarian literally is a cheat code for the Columbus crew. And that even when Columbus is down in this game, you knew that as long as you have Lucas Zarian on the field, that you have a chance to come back into the game. And what a goal this was, where he basically smacked this one in a perfect area where Kenneth Vermeer didn't even move whatsoever. Like, he was hoping that actually went wide, but it basically just nestled the bottom left corner. And just like that, it was a 2-1 game up to that point, and definitely give life for Columbus and really shift the momentum toward the Crew side, because heading into the second half, the Crew would never let go of that momentum. Columbus, as I mentioned, they were on the front foot early in these first 5 minutes of the second half, looking to try to get the equalizer. Joe Gel did try to go through on goal, but unfortunately he hits the side netting before Zaire came oh so close of tying the game up and really just willed this Columbus team back to level pegging as he fired a 19-yard shot that struck the post. And again, despite the fact that down 10 men, Columbus are controlling this game, and if there is no graphics to tell you that one of these teams were down to 10 men, you would think FC Cincinnati was the one that was down to 10 men, because Columbus was just in complete control. And I just don't understand why Cincinnati decided to kind of sit back. Like, I understand that they want to sit back so that they can maybe hold on to this 2-1 lead and not go too aggressive, where maybe they can get caught by this Columbus attack on the counter. And we know this Crew team does have a lethal counter attack, but I feel like they were being way too lenient and being way too conservative in terms of protecting this 2-1 lead when they're clearly even a man up. Because in the 63rd minute, Miguel Berry actually hits it high from close range before 14 minutes later he would score his first MLS goal from Zaire to tie the game up at 2 apiece. The 500 Crew away fans that was in the stadium. Well, actually, it wasn't just 500. It was 500 of them being in the away section. I also saw a lot of yellow jersey spatter around TQ Stadium, but certainly the camera that showed the Crew fans in that away section was going absolutely nuts. And it also gets to a point where a couple of minutes after that equalizer, you can hear them chanting, and they were out saying the Bailey on the FC Cincinnati side. I mean, that just tells you how Crew fans were absolutely ecstatic that they were able to get this game back to level pegging, despite the fact that they're down to 10 men. And also, it was pretty clear that Cincinnati fans realized that, yep, here we go again. This is like Nashville all over again, when we went up 2-0, and you just hope that you were thinking that this was finally the moment where they have a big win at TQ Stadium, and this team basically broke your heart again by doing that. And now I think a bunch of those fans were thinking that, yeah, that third goal is going to come from Columbus not long, isn't it? But in the 82nd minute, they did have something to shout for, and it was a penalty kick that they thought it should have been given to their team after Abdul Salam brought down Castillo in the box. Nothing was given during that play. But yeah, Cincinnati, they eventually did wake up and realize that they were actually up a man in this game and tried to push late for the winner, but unfortunately they weren't able to do so, as it ends in a 2-2 draw in this Hell is Real derby. Shots in this one: 13 shots compared to 9 that Columbus had, 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that Columbus had, 6 shots off target compared to 5 that Columbus had, 4 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Columbus had, and possession-wise, both teams had 50% possession in this game, and there's no doubt that Cincinnati will be the team that will be kicking themselves that they did not win this game. In fact, I talked about earlier how all these home teams are going to be kicking themselves that they were up a man at some point in this game and they still only got a point out of the game. I think Cincinnati is going to be the one that kicking themselves the most, because they had this game. Like, they had the control of this game, and just inexplicably they decided to lose control of the game and decided to let Columbus kind of take over. And when you decide to let a strong team to take over again, like the Columbus Crew, yeah, you're gonna definitely be in trouble. And yeah, it's another frustrating resort, and another kind of just the latest frustrating and heartbreaking resort that FC Cincinnati fans have to suffer. And this is why I've said many times before, I feel really bad for Cincinnati fans, and especially with the way that they've been on such a good run. And yes, technically they're still unbeaten in their last 4 games, but this game really felt like a loss with the way that they had so many chances they had chances late in the game to go ahead again, and they were up a man, and just inexplicably they decided to just be conservative, and they kind of got paid for it because they were being too conservative heading into the second half. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of these 3 games. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all 3 of these games? And like I said, I'm not going to be doing a preview in terms of another MLS game until next week, because there's no MLS game for me to preview. Now, I will potentially do a review for the Gold Cup that is starting. Now, tomorrow I think I'm going to do another groundhog and unfortunately it's going to be taking place right between when the US is going to be playing their first Gold Cup game. I believe it's against Haiti, but I'll make sure I'll try to maybe watch the highlights of the game and do a review on that game too. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.